Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for another movie spoiler review. Yesterday I went to go see Death on the Nile, starring and directed by Kenneth Branagh, reprising his role as renowned detective Hercule Poirot. It also stars Tom Bateman as Bach, returning as Bach, Annette Bening as Bach's mother, Euphemia, Russell Brand as Linus Winningham, Eli, uh, Eli or Ali Fazale, Dawn French as Miss Bowers, Gal Gadot as Lynette Ridgway, Armie Hammer as Simon Doyle, Rose Leslie as Louise Barguette, Emma Mackey as Jackie de Belfort, Sophie Aconido as Simone Utterborn, Jennifer Saunders as Marie Van Schreier, Letitia Wright as Rosalit Utterborn, Simone's niece, and Susanna Fielding as Catherine. Okay. I seen this is the sequel to the movie Murder on the Orient Express, and both are just not retellings, but an movie adaptation of Agatha Christie's novel, Poirot novels, detective stories, which I actually dig. Murder mystery stuff is honestly, I love detective noir that that you figure out along the way with good storytelling, and it's like sometimes a good storytelling, you don't really, when it comes to these kind of things, you don't the audience shouldn't have figured out long in the beginning of the film. That's why I dig Knives Out. I dig Murder on the Orient Express, and this movie, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Blade Runner. Yeah, I love detective noir movies, especially if they're done really well. But the thing is about this movie, and I'll get into the story in a minute. One of the grievances I have about this movie, as more so of a personal nitpick, honestly, is that I love the cast of the previous movie more so than I have with this cast to a certain degree, because in Murder on the Orient Express have more of a, not that this movie didn't, but the previous one has more of a star-studded cast. Honestly, because half of these, for Death on the Nile, I know half of the people here, to be honest with you. And Murder on the Orient Express, I know, I recognize a lot of people here. Because I will review Murder on the Orient Express at some point. Probably right along with Knives Out, because I want to do those back to back, because those are just amazing. But honestly, Murder on the Orient Express, Kenneth Branagh, of course, and Tom Bateman, but you got Penelope Cruz, Willem Dafoe, Judi Dench, Johnny Depp, Josh Gad, Derek Jacobi, Leslie Odom Jr., Michelle Pfeiffer, Daisy Ridley, Marwan Kenzari, Olivia Colman, Lucy Barton, Manuel Garcia Rufo, Sergi Paloon, Phil Dunster, and Miranda Raisin. Now, I know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Mm, yep. I know 11 people here on on the previous cast. It definitely by face, I can tell you that much. Because I've seen them in a handful of other stuff. This one, I know one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. I know 7 people. I recognize 7 people in the Death on the Nile cast. 7. So definitely a handful more. And it's just like, it's not that they did like a bad job or anything. Like I said, it's a personal nitpick, but just that it's like maybe it's because like I was what drew me in, and I hope we get another because apparently there's a lot of Agatha Christie. Of course, there's a lot of Agatha Christie novels, based on Hercule Poirot. But if they make another one, I kind of hope, just like Murder on the Orient Express, is like a handful of more either recognizable people or some up and coming kind of people. But I think things like this, I kind of think normally I go for movies that, especially if they're because Murder on the Orient Express, I don't know why this seems like a tongue twister to me, seems like an original idea, even though it was adapted from like a novel, but still though it's kind of like it's not like Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. This actually had like some great stories, and like it's just like the writing is very well done, the cinematography is very well done. It's just that of course certain stars, like especially big stars, you know I don't want to get into it with Murder on Orient Express, but slight spoilers: Johnny Depp is the one who's killed and murder who has to be solved. And and spoiler alert for Death on the Nile, Gal Gadot is like just like Johnny Depp, one of those big stars that, and stuff like this, either has to be the killer or it has to be the one who dies, or in this case, murder who has to be solved. So a star-studded cast probably is a must in movies like this. But yeah, that's like I said, it's a personal nitpick. I kind of wish they kind of have like more of a recognizable faces, because honestly, it's like I only know like a handful of them. Anyway, Death on the Nile opens up. I didn't expect this because it opens up in WW1, and every time I see like a movie like this that kind of has some kind of WW1 reference and some soldiers on the battlefield talking about the Great War, and it's like, oh boy, like I'm thinking to myself, because like with hindsight and knowing historical records, like, oh boy, y'all in for a doozy in the next 30 years or so, because this Great War will probably seem trivial by comparison to what you'll expect in the next 30 or so years. And just a little FYI, there's certain authors who were alive and part of WW1, like Tolkien was a WW1 soldier who, during his stint in service, I guess in some facet, because of that, gave him the idea of writing the Lord of the Rings novels. There is a movie called Tolkien that I really want to. It's just like just like I did for Christmas when I did my first Christmas movie review. I did crap. What was that? The Man Who Invented Christmas, based off at least that little short blurb on how the author. Uh, why did I forget the author? Is one of my favorite authors. Shoot, God dang it. Charles Dickens. Wow, my memory. And based pretty much like a short blurb out of Charles Dickens' life, telling the how he came up with the idea for A Christmas Carol. I want to do one for Tolkien, uh, just because that that movie starring Nicholas Holt, who was, if you don't know who Nicholas Holt is, I don't know why you don't know. If you watched the X-Men movies, he was young Hank McCoy Beast. And the Lord of the Rings stuff, isn't my personal cup of tea, which is weird because I love Harry Potter. I love magic and stuff like that. But something about like the Lord of the Rings doesn't grab me like most other people. And I think like Star Wars, was far more interesting. I think Star Trek, World of Warcraft, Magic the Gathering, and Lord of the Rings are the few nerdy stuff in the fandom or pop culture that doesn't resonate with me. Well, Star Trek to some extent, because I like Next Generation more so than anything else. But beyond that, it's like it is one of those few nerdy things that did not catch my sway. Anyway, the movie starts off with like WWE1, and you see like a young Hercule Poirot come up with the using his deductive skills, come up with the idea of following this fog that comes in over the battlefield and using it to advance to ambush the enemy, which they succeed. But the captain triggers a tripwire to some explosive, killing him and severely-ish wounding Hercule, causing I swear to God, I thought it's giving me like certain flashbacks to the Dark Knight, where Harvey Dent gets his face, because he got his head turned, and when he turns around, he got this gas on his lip and stuff like that, which eventually is why he grew his fancy dancy mustache that we saw in the previous film. And I'm thinking like, God, that's giving me some flashbacks. It's just like Harvey Dent. I swear to God, you expected more. But then a nurse comes in to take care of him. Turns out to be his love interest, Catherine, who later we found out that the reason why they're not together later on is because she died during a mortar incident, killing her. Like a mortar hit like a building and killing her, and kind of shut himself off romantically. That's why he was always like, seemed like just closed off, not reckless, but just closed off with love. And flashback in the mid to late 1930s, and he's vacationing in no, that's before we get to that, he goes to this jazz club, and you meet certain people that you will see later on as the potential suspects. And you see, now, is another thing. These, even with Murder on the Orient Express, I don't recognize offhand or I won't say recognize, not remember these stars' names. I got to have the names pulled up here just to remember, but I'm just going to more than likely call them by their actors' names, because that's what it's easier for me to remember. So just excuse me. So you meet like the cast, like Gal Gadot's character, Armie Hammer's character, and Jackie, once again, like I said, played by Emma Mackey. Now, uh, Jackie uh, introduces uh, Gal Gadot's character, Lily, something with an L, Lynette Ridgway. Uh, introduced them because she, met him. She's in love with him. She needs her since, uh, Gal Gadot's character is some kind of Harris, and she needs like her to basically give him a job, and like put like a good word in for him and stuff like that. They introduced and like the dance sequence here when like I'm thinking to myself how like often our parents and grandparents always give the younger generation crap about like going out to like clubs or parties and commenting, because I remember there was juke parties. This is how old I am because I grew up in the 90s, and we had in like early 2000s more specifically, I think like Chicago kind of invented this and it kind of spread out, but there was a thing called juke parties. It's pretty much where like women grind their butts on the man's private area and stuff like that. It was like very like sexual. I think Jamaica kind of like take that to the nth degree, because if you see Jamaicans dance with each other, it's super sexual. But when I see Jackie and Armie Hammer's character dancing, and then Gal Gadot dancing with Armie Hammer's character, it is just like it's like the legs all over the place. And this is the first time I actually acknowledge how tall Gal Gadot is. Armie Hammer is already tall, and when he's like like does this like lean forward, like what I mean, like just like when the leg goes like this and the guy's holding her in place, is doing a dip, and you see like her leg extending, and it's like holy crap, I did not realize how tall. And like, you can Armie Hammer, I'm pretty sure, is a very well fit dude, so it's not any sweat off his back, but he's just like, wow, it's like her legs reaching towards his freaking head, and like she is like probably up to his height. But before that, you see like him dancing with Jackie, and like her legs all over his, and she's limber as fuck, and like her legs is like really on his shoulder, and it's like, and like he carries these ladies, and their crotches right up into his doggone face, and it's like grandparents and parents should not talk shit about our generation or the generation past mine about the way we dance with each other, whatever like that, because y'all had no right to talk crap the way I've seen like certain movies or historical stuff, video clips on certain parties that was going on in the past. It's like, y'all got some nerve, about as freaky as y'all been, and y'all complain about how like your knees and stuff like that and how much it hurts. Probably because the way y'all were dancing, it's probably why your knees hurt to this day. But that's just me. I'm saying like, wow, this is so sexual. And these people are gonna be grandparents. It's like, because like you forget, like you look at your grandparents, and it's like it's hard to comprehend what they look like in like their 20s, 30s, and 40s. And I'm thinking to like myself, I'm looking at like certain characters, and it's like, God, they're gonna be some gray hair old biddies. I got 10, 20 years from down the line. But anyway, I'm going off topic here. So, fast forward a couple of weeks, and this relationship between, because Jackie and Armie Hammer's character were intended to be engaged. They fell off, and then our relationship sparked between, Gal Gadot and Armie Hammer's character, and my mindset was like, wow, this is kind of fast. I mean, he really like, jumped the gun on this kind of relationship. You'll see later on why, but it was like kind of quick. I get like, maybe like, it's not kosher, but you know, I'm not gonna say it doesn't happen where like I kind of like a relationship might spark between like another people that they met through a mutual kind of contact kind of situation, even though they already were with somebody. But it was just very expedient. You couldn't just give it like they already engaged after like just a 2 week period, and it's like don't even give the time the previous relationship to sort that out before you hop into this. But uh Hercule is vacationing in Egypt, and he bumps into his friend Bach, who he and his mother are on a trip. Who they knew in Gal Gadot's character, celebrating their you know uh like Simon and Lynette. Simon and Lynette. I gotta remember Simon and Lynette. Their engagement and their uh well I can't remember if they was actually married. No, they was definitely engaged. They haven't gotten officially married, but they are vacationing in Egypt. And Lynette invited her ex, 'cause she was with somebody. Invited her ex fiance, uh, Doctor, played by Russell Brand, Doctor Linus Winningham. And I gotta say, right off the bat, before I forget to talk about it, I am just impressed with Russell Brand's character in this. Is like my feelings towards Russell Brand as an actor has not been like, it's not like I hate him in any role. It's just that he really didn't, and he had like his own personal thing going on with like substance abuse, not like crazy substance abuse, but he's just like kind of far out kind of dude, and not far out in a good way. He does his own thing. He's not a terrible person or anything by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just like you kind of expected somebody, because he can act, and given maybe because of time, because last time I've seen him in anything is been a handful of years. Enough time has went by. Like this movie kind of really showed like he's kind of matured a bit, and in this role, he is definitely like it's kind of like Robert Downey Jr. in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. You can see that he is like collected. He's focused, and like you can see his performance. He can do this job if like he has like a focus towards this, and not like not out of his gourd, and with all the substance abuse. But like I loved him in his role. He's reserved, he's collected, and he's like I said, he can act his out when he's taking a scene. He is acting his ass off. I really love Russell Brand. It's probably one of my favorite parts in this film, honestly. Uh, uh, but you can tell that he was just like it's kind of like what was that movie I just reviewed? Uh, where it's like shoot, like I reviewed a movie previously. Oh, Destination Wedding. It is I think it was Destination Wedding with Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder. Excuse me. Where it's like he just like Winona Ryder's character. He's invited. He is there. He's just like I guess he's not satisfied. I don't say satisfied. He's just there for I guess closure in his way, but he's just support, begrudgingly kind of support. Even though he's not too thrilled and the fact that he got turned in, just the relationship kind of abruptly ended. So he's just like I don't know. Like I said, it's like just begrudgingly, come along just for part of closure and part of just like support, because he's not like a bad dude. Even though I'm pretty sure he's not there. I was like, you don't need to be there. Honestly, like nobody's making you be there, and it's like, what's the worst going to happen? To get talk shit about, or like call sour grapes or whatever? Who gives a fuck? But there's like a hotel scene where you see more of the cast, coming about and everything like that. And of course, you get introduced with like Bach's mother, and she's a renowned painter. You can see her like painting like a very cool painting, by the way, uh, of the Egyptian pyramids and everything like that. And the certain CGI effects that's used in here is not many, but you didn't expect to see anything in movies like this. Whereas like certain CGI animals, at least two. There's a crocodile coming after like some seagulls, and then there's a snake that was being like you've seen like certain movies or TV shows with like snake charmers, and like yeah, excuse me, a snake is coming out, and Hercule stops it with his cane, like, and it's just like kind of sudden. It's like, okay, why that isn't even needed into the thing, whatever, just to show off like Hercule's cool reflexes or whatever like that. However, oh, by the way, speaking of reflexes, while I'm on the subject, before I forget again, it's like something that I thought it was kind of like bizarre. You've seen Hercule in this film and the previous film walks with a cane. And it's going to be certain moments where I see him running, like a man in his like 20s and 30s. And it's like, okay, did you forget that you need to walk with a cane? It's like, it's like, what's the point of the cane? It's like you're old-ish, but you're not like old. So it's like, okay, maybe it's because you think it was because like a war injury or something like that, but it's like you're running like a good stint, and it's like your legs can't be like aching that bad. But anyway, Lynette and Simon comes to Hercule and request to, since they know he's like a famous detective and everything like that, they request for him to help them out with dealing with Jackie, because everywhere they go, she somehow winds up there and doesn't do anything, just there in their vicinity staring at them, and it makes them uncomfortable, and they hoping that he do something about it. He talks with her, but it's like she hasn't committed any crimes outside of maybe stalking, but as little he can do about it unless he actually do something. But his best suggest is to avoid these kind of like announcements or just going anywhere. Just, it might suck, but stop, don't do any honeymoons. Just get married, go back to your like nice home, and just, your gated home, and just, spend your life with each other and stuff like that. She can't come into your property because that will be trespassing and that will be breaking the law. Until that, kind of thing, like until she actually breaks the law, there's little he can do, which sucks, but it kind of makes sense. But they didn't listen at first. They were like, they go on this trip, on boat trip along the Nile, and there's a certain shot. I mean, bringing, it's a spur of the moment thing. They brought their specific guests they brought along, and obviously not telling Jackie. But as soon as like they are gathered together to come along this boat trip, they see that Gal Gadot and this little thing that she's standing on and dressed like Cleopatra and everything like that. And it's just like, I'm not the only one who thought that was like very off-putting. It's like, why that shot? It's like style points. It's, very privileged, kind of like Tony Starkish, kind of like like eccentric Tony Stark eccentric thing to do. It's like very standout-ish. But I thought that was weird. I was like out of place. Just like the whole like that snake thing. I was like, I don't think that was needed, really. It was, it's very kind of put me off a bit to the movie for a minute. But they go along this boat trip, and enjoying the scenery. They go off to this this place where he has, tomb, and you see all the, and like you see like Bach and his mother having this conversation, because she seems like a very bitter woman when it comes to, as you hear later, about like any relationship period, but specifically any relationship between her son and any other woman he brings, along, who has any kind of like interest, like serious interest with. But she made this comment about like, because Pharaoh being buried with his wives and stuff like that. If he dies before them, they all got to be buried along with him. Even if they're long since passed, if they were one of his wives, they have to be moved and buried along with him. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm getting like the Mummy movie vibes. I'm getting Yu-Gi-Oh vibes with all this Egyptian stuff. And you see like a certain moment between like the jazz musician Simone, Salmon, and Hercule. And he later becomes like after listening to her sing, he's not much of a jazz person or a blues person, but when she sings, like it really like hooks him. And then like you see like a moment, this is kind of like it was like a bit off-putting to see like Wonder Woman, because God could tell it's Wonder Woman. She's always gonna be Wonder Woman. It's like in my mind, it's like cemented. And you see her in like a role where like she is sneaking off with Simon to like have like spontaneous sex on, like, why would you want to have sex on like a kind of like a, not that it's been proven, but let's be honest, you shouldn't desecrate or walk into like a Egyptian tomb or anything, because anything could like, because there's like I believe there's fucking curses when it comes to these Egyptian tombs. Like, they wanted to prevent possible grave robbers in the future, so they invented like death traps and possible curses here and there. But especially depending on the pharaoh, it's like, and you're trying to fuck on an Egyptian like tomb, essentially, right by the big giant statues. And then like a piece of debris from the area nearly falls on top of them, and like a sandstorm is coming about, so they have to rush to get back to the boat to escape from that before it hits. And there's Jackie, and it's like definitely upsetting Lynette and Simon. But I'm thinking to myself, first of all, how did this woman know where they are or what they was up to get here, and who allowed her on board? You would think, like, if they did all this just to avoid this woman, they should have alerted the staff with like a picture or whatever. Do not allow this woman on board for any reason. I don't care. Do not allow this woman, because there's a specific. If I'm on like an engagement trip with a woman, and if she or me or both have this particular people that we do not want anywhere near us, we will alert the staff not to allow this particular person on board for any particular reason. She's just there. Because that would make sense, wouldn't it? But this caused tension, obviously. And some time go by, then she doesn't do anything. She just pretty much just skulks at them, and she just want to be there just to disturb, because she's still in love with Simon, and heeding to anybody's word about like leave them be, let them be happy. We understand you're upset, but it's just kind of like you gotta let this go because at this point it's creepy and it's uncomfortable for everybody. And later on, you see Lynette's cousin, uh, played by Ali. He presents her with some papers she had to sign, and it's kind of typical in a lot of like, ain't this like a, is this kind of like a possible trope, underrated kind of trope, to where it comes to like a murder mystery where there's gotta be some kind of papers the potential victim going to be signing or has to sign that could give somebody a big payout kind of thing. There was something like that in Knives Out, and definitely this, and it's like that's a lot of murder mysteries with this kind of thing. Of course, she didn't sign it thanks to her friend, thanks to Lynette's schoolmate friend, Rosalie. But speaking of Rosalie, she and Bach are item, and it's kind of like the first woman in Bach, as he confesses to Hercule. This is the first woman he actually, doesn't, is not swayed by any of his like eccentric BS. Is she kind of gets, a particular person, like man, woman, non-binary, if they can get past like those kind of defenses you kind of build up, and you get to that heart of the matter with the person, it's like it's just a whole nother level. Like we all had experienced that kind of thing, where it's just like all those defenses, all those trickeries, the mind games, all that crap. It's like he got past all that, and it's like this is like a real thing. This is like the person that kind of like loves you despite any kind of baggage, despite the armor and that kind of thing. It's like they managed to reach it. He's got it bad, and the only issue is his mother is not. And I was worried that it was because this is like the 1930s, and they do kind of hint at it with Salmon, with the whole racist. This is like a very still a racist time. This is even 30 years before the whole civil rights thing, mind you. 35 years before the whole civil rights thing with like Martin Luther King. This is like definitely even a whole nother time before his day. And I was worried that Bach's mom is a complete racist, but no, she just don't like her because she doesn't believe in love. She thinks it's pretty much like a bad joke, and she just doesn't want her son. She wants her son to be like, maybe not alone. He can have his little flings, but it's like so far as like relationship, she expects him to be alone for the rest of his life, and it's like he says he doesn't hurt from money, but he just still wants like his mother's blessing, I guess. Back, maybe even to some extent, to this day, but especially back then, it's kind of, I guess, hugely important to get like the parents' blessing. But even still, I'm pretty sure there's still plenty of people around this time would just elope without a moment's hesitation, which he just should have just done. But then things heat up when Simon confronts Jackie, and it says like, "I never loved you. You stay with me. Woo woo." And then Jackie, in a moment of like just anger and like tenses high, like I said, she takes a pistol that she kept hidden in her, like this little mini little pistol. It kind of reminds me of like the noisy cricket from Men in Black. She has this little pistol in her, in a purse. He takes it out, and shoots Simon in the leg. And she quickly was distressed, and then she was, like attempted to shoot herself until till Buck and Rosalie stopped them. Uh, forced her to drop the gun and takes her to one of the guests who's a nurse. What was that? Mrs. Bowers, who turns out to be lovers with Marie Van Schreier, who helps calm her Jackie down, and then takes and then Bach takes Simon to Russell Brand's character, who's a doctor, and like treats him. But then throughout this whole ordeal, the next day, Catherine, no, not Catherine. Shoot, Louise, who finds in the next morning a dead Lynette, who had like a gunshot wound in her temple. And now Hercule's like, okay, now like I gotta, turn on the whole detective mode now, and now solve this murder, because one of these guests is a murderer. Now, of course, they don't look at the wait staff because they, around close to midnight, they leave off board to, because they're off the clock and they leave off board. I don't know if they still do that kind of thing on like luxury, well, maybe not luxury cruise liners, but there's certain boats where like the wait staff is like off the clock kind of situation. I've never been on a cruise. Well, I've been on a cruise, but it's like not like off into the ocean. It's like usually, there's like usually around Halloween where I go on this booze cruise along the near Navy Pier, and of course it casts off and it does like goes along the shoreline and then like goes back around. So it's like a 2.5 kind of hour kind of thing, which I plan on doing this year. I didn't do it last year because I still did not feel comfortable in being in an enclosed space on a boat that I cannot leave anytime that I want. But maybe this year, like, okay, now it's like, okay, I'm cool with being here, because by this point, definitely by this Halloween, there should be significant amount of vaccinated, boosted people. Okay, and I'm definitely vaccinated and stuff like that. So it's like, I ain't too worried. And hopefully by that time, we don't have to worry about masks, because like hopefully, word is Illinois is planning on doing the whole lifting mask mandates to some extent by the end of the month. We'll see how long that lasts, but hopefully that is a permanent thing, because honestly, I'm personally tired of it, but I still maintain certain rules. If certain areas still require it, I'll still have one. But anyway, so Hercule is interrogating these people, and we come to find out that he wasn't even on vacation personally at the beginning of the film. He was hired by Bach's mother to investigate shoot, I'm forgetting that doggone fast. Rosalie. Just to kind of like prove to Buck that she was no good, but she was beyond perfect in Hercule's eyes. But the mother still doesn't trust anybody to be with her son, thinks love is a joke, and doesn't approve at all. But then Rosalie, despite Hercule's approval, she berates him about this whole his uh hidden agenda. Um but then later we've well, again ahead of myself. Uh the first interrogation Hercule did was for uh uh Lynette's uh maid, Louise. And you can say she would have had a motive for having harmed Lynette, because she was engaged to a person who she was in love with, but Lynette had suspicions about this guy, did an investigation, find out that he had horrible debt, and thinking that she was going to try to, marry Louise just to hope to get closer to her. And so she presented him with like kind of like a test. She would pay off all his debts if he leaves Louise. And without hesitation, he cancels the entire engagement and takes the bribe, which understandably probably would upset Louise or anybody, but it was like very underhanded way of trying to keep Louise under Lynette's employ. Was really effed up. And a lot of these kind of characters in these kind of mystery movies are effed up in some kind of way, but just not guilty of like murder or anything like that. They just shitty people. But after Rosalie berates Hercule, they find Louise's dead body, stuck in one of those rotor things, on these like old style boats that require like propulsion using water, like you know what I mean. This big wheel that kind of like churns from the water. Anyway, now like things are heightened. Now there's another dead body, and like things are getting like really serious. Like the guests are fighting amongst each other. Then Hercule takes notice about some blood spatter he finds against the wall, but there's like a gap between the spatter, meaning somebody was standing here when this blood spatter happened, and he knows he takes like the direction at the staircase, meaning like whoever was standing here witnessed something. And then he goes to Bach, who he which is kind of like, wow, this is probably almost like I said, like a good storytelling, when it comes to murder mysteries, where you get like surprise kind of moments that you didn't see coming. And it's like, this is like a friend that was with us in the previous film, like right, it's like pretty much like the sidekick, the Watson to Hercule's Sherlock Holmes. And can you imagine like you watching a Sherlock Holmes movie and like, I'm pretty sure it happened in a Sherlock Holmes novel at some point, but in like a movie, you would never would have like think to see Sherlock interrogating Watson. This is what it felt like to me. And it's like, wow, dude. It's like, did he fucking kill these people? It's like, and then right when he's starting to slowly reveal that like he did steal the necklace. It was a necklace also missing at this, that belonged to Lynette, that was stolen at the same time of her death. And it was missing, but it was like Bach's mother later found it in her belongings. But she was adamant that she didn't steal it. But right when Bach was about to let Hercule know who he saw, and a secret assassin killed Bach right on the spot, which is also was like kind of like out of the blue. Didn't I see that coming? And then Hercule, that's what I told him about with the whole Kane situation. He gives chase and he's running like a good, it's really gunning. It's like, where's the war injury? Like, you really running like you're in your 20s, dude. Like, God. He was chasing after this person who was knocking over like kitchen utensils, and like there's like a pot of hot boiling water is like was dumping like on part of like Hercules' leg, and it's like, dang, it's like I know that's burning sensation, but he's still trucking it. And like this mystery person is throwing like axes Hercules' way, and he's nearly dodging it, and then the person disappeared, leaving a gun behind. Speaking of guns, they knew, like, thanks to the doctor, they know what kind of caliber the gun would have been, depending, like, determined from the gunshot wound, and like figure out that Ali's character, Andrew Cachadonian, who is Lynette's cousin / lawyer, and as he's being interrogated, I think he was the second or third person being interrogated. He, of course, he would be the person to interrogate, because he presented these papers, and it's like, as like nice little undercut of the, expectations, because like, oh, he has some paperwork that needs to sign, so he's probably intent to make sure that he gets some bit of money, but no, his name's not even on it. He doesn't get a cent from wherever she's going to sign. But and then he has like a freaking gun in his jacket pocket. It's like, if I wasn't intending to kill her, I would use this. And he's sending a gun which is like a bigger caliber, and it's like, dude, you're talking to a fucking detective and you pulling out like another Keanu Reeves movie that I was reviewing for Keanu Reeves month. You can check that out. And it's just take a moment here. Don't forget to follow me in the links in the description if you want to follow me on further along with these reviews. But well, you know him as Mr. Incredible from the Incredibles movie. That voice actor, he was in the Devil's Advocate, and he was being questioned as a murder suspect, and he presented like a gun, and it's like, and this character, I'm thinking like, why are you showing a person of the law a freaking gun, whether it's yours or not? That's liable to get you shot on the spot. Especially, and he mentions like, as a brown person, you gotta learn to. And it's like both him and Simone mentions about like being colored individuals in this day and age. You gotta learn to like watch out for yourself and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, I get it, but damn, you are tempting fate. I don't care if you're way over in Egypt. You will liable to get shot on the spot for just brandishing a gun, and they will have every reason to shoot you, or at least you'll give them an excuse to shoot you. But he wasn't the one to do it, because his gun doesn't match the caliber, and it doesn't show signs of it being fired. Anyway, after Buck gets shot, and of course Hercule like devastated. This is his best friend, and like this last, and like it probably sticks with him at this point, the fact that his last moments with his best friend, in the entire world, was him interrogating him like any old suspect. But later on, you find out that, it was Lynette's cousin who tried to push that debris on top of Lynette and Simon, but missed. But he regretted. He never tried anything else again. But he wasn't the one who committed these murders. Then he found out that Buck was the one who stole the necklace, because he was the first person who discovered the dead body, and decided to try to frame his own mother so he can inherit her wealth, so that way he doesn't need her blessing, despite the fact that he claims that he wasn't hurting for money, but he still like want to live lavishly and be able to travel like he always done, because he finds content doing that more so than being confined into office settings, and he wants to live happily with Rosalie without financial troubles or what have you. But he soon discovered that it was Lynette's maid, Louise, who he saw getting murdered, because it was like she was slashed along the neck, because she was being bribed after she was actually the second person thought to be the first person to discover the body, but wanted to make sure that she was silenced forever, not want to leave loose ends, don't know who she might end up talking to. Turns out it was Simon and Jackie who committed these murders. And it turns out that they were playing up this whole act about being, separated, and Jackie being a jilted lover. She was the one who's the mastermind behind it, while because there was red paint stolen from Bach's mom, who Simon stole from, because the gun that Jackie was brandishing turns out to be carrying blanks. She shot, pretending to actually shoot at Simon. Simon using the red paint to pretend him being shot. While he had a moment alone, while Bach and Rosalie was tending to Jackie, he takes the gun, runs to reloads it with actual bullets, runs to Lynette's room, takes the gun to the temple, shoots her, then takes this. There was a cloth, one of the guest cloths, I think not the nurse, but the Marie Van Strider. She had like a sash or a scarf that was missing. He took it to use it as a makeshift silencer to shoot himself in the leg to actually portray being shot. Takes both items, throws it into the Nile. First he runs back to the room where he was left, shoots himself, then limps along, throws the two items off the boat into the Nile, and just to really put suspicion off of him, and the fact that the nurse shot up Jackie with morphine to sedate her because she was in such distress. It's one of those kind of good murder mysteries where you got two parties that was able to kind of co-conspirators, where it's if done right, you can easily pull off a good alibis. But he figured out they was working together to being being like husband to Lynette, tends to inherit some wealth so they can live off of that. But knowing that there's no way they can get away with it, or at least run too far, Jackie does a murder-suicide with herself and Simon, and shot them both. They hugging each other, and then she takes the gun and shoot Simon in the back, and the exit wound come out through her, killing them both. As the boat finally docks, just like a whole somber moment. It's not even a good. It's like a bittersweet of an ending, more bitter than sweet of an ending for everybody involved. Then the movie ends with a clean shaving Hercule visiting Simone at one of her jazz clubs, hinting at like a possible like actual openness to a serious relationship. And you see like his old war wound, which is pretty healed over, but you see like a slight noticeable scar. But it's like it's kind of off-putting to see like a clean shaven Hercule because you're so used to seeing that like little curled up mustache. But yeah, I mean, definitely that was a pretty solid movie. Like if I would give it like any kind of rating, it's like a solid B. It was like a pretty decent movie. I enjoyed it. Definitely, you'll probably enjoy it. At least give it like a once over. It's pretty solid film. But I think personally, I like Murder on the Orient Express a little bit more. Maybe it's because of like the actors involved in that one, and it's just that I don't know. It's just there's something about it was like maybe it's just the beginning of the film where it seems kind of like somewhat out of sorts, or felt not rushed, but it's just like I don't know. It's just like it's hard to. I wouldn't say it's not cohesive. It's just like it just left me like feeling like there's some gap that left me feeling like not as satisfied with the like with the film. I cannot put into words what it is, but it's just that I still enjoyed it, but not as much as the previous film. But I'm hesitating to say it's because of some of the cast, because maybe it's just the cast just wasn't very memorable to me, because the previous movie the cast kind of stuck out a bit, and it's like not that I remember their characters' names any easier, but it was just more fun to some extent. But like I said, it's not a terrible movie. Like I definitely highly recommend it. But yeah, that is my review for Death on the Nile. That is like I said, it's pretty solid though. It's pretty solid. I kind of hope there is like at least one more movie, not to make it into like a good large movie franchise or anything like that, but I think a third final Hercule Poirot kind of story will be fun, and just like a nice wrap up of the overall Hercule Poirot detective story, like a nice 3-part thing. I think that would be more than enough. Hopefully, Kenneth Branagh, because he is still like my favorite part overall in these films. I hope he's considering doing like a third one. I think a nice final third one would be enough. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on Death on the Nile if you've seen it already, and did you enjoy it or did you not? But I will see you guys soon. Take care. Be safe.